Sistas, Bonafide. Sistas, Bonafide. Sistas, Bonafide. My sister and me.
All right. Hey, Sistas Bonafide family. How you guys doing today? So today we just wanted to kind of touch base with you guys on a very important topic that has been in the media and in the news for the last few weeks. And it is the discussion about the Supreme Court deciding to overturn the Roe v. Wade ruling. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Roe v. Wade ruling, that was, I believe, back in 1973, which was the original ruling, it basically states in layman's terms that women have the right to abort their babies, their fetuses at a certain period of time. So, and today, at this time, it's now being discussed that the Supreme Court wants to overturn that. So that would essentially take away the rights from women to have the choice to either keep their babies full term or have an abortion. And from the looks of it, it looks like it might be in effect. So that's from my last bit of research on it. But we're going to just talk about it because obviously it affects a lot of different people. It affects us, me and Steph and I as women. It affects us as you know, just women of color. Steph, you want to start us off and what are your thoughts on all this? Because it's a lot to unpack.
It's a lot, and we know that this topic is a very touchy topic. But we all have our outlook on what abortion means for self, right? You have personal views, you have your own feelings, your own morale. For some people, religion plays a part in this decision. But even if we disagree when it comes to self, with why women do have abortions, I think that we can agree and put into perspective I can see why for some women it might be the right decision.
Right.
Right away I think about women who are raped, children who are raped. That's always, when it comes to abortion, that's always been to me, one of the what lets me able to reason with it. And a lot of women come to that decision because they were put in these situations, which is just horrible and disgusting. But I really don't know what the right answer is, But I have to be honest, what never sat right with me was woman, I'm just gonna be real. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to, this is not us being judgmental. These are just my feelings.
Of course.
I know personally, I know women who continue to have unprotected sex, and they continuously have abortions.
Right.
That doesn't sit right with me, because at some point you have to be responsible. It's that it can't be, to me, it shouldn't be such an easy choice. You know what I'm saying? So I feel at some point as women, we have to take responsibility. But, and that's something that I'm not going to say I disagree with it and I can't stand the thought of it, but it is bothersome.
I hear you.
For me, I'm just,
of course.
Then on the other hand, some women who have done it, it's not an easy decision. I know women who have done it because maybe it wasn't the right time. They were really, really young, and it wasn't an easy decision for them. And some women do it and never do it again. Some women do it for whatever the reason was at that time. And, a lot of women get pregnant again after having an abortion, and some women feel like they could never do something like that again. But, for whatever the reason is, it's definitely not an easy one to make, right? Not an easy decision to make. Then you have the religious aspect, and this is not me. I'm just speaking my thoughts. to why people disagree with it, you know?
Exactly.
Religious aspect. It's not God's will, it's blasphemy. People don't care what a woman could go through. Like, you could straight up get raped and you better keep that baby. You know? And so listen, there's so many things. What I will say, like, you want to tread lightly because it's like a very sensitive subject, and I've never personally been there, but I really wouldn't want another woman to feel like I'm being judgmental. But what I will say is that I think something everybody could agree on, if it is overturned or they do overturn it, there will be massive like implications. That's maternal mortality, especially amongst Black women. That's going to go up. Then you'll have more families who are going to be in poverty and more children who are going to be in foster care. So my thing is, if they overturn Roe versus Wade, what are they going to, not to say that if they do, this is the only way I'll agree with it. I'm just saying my thought process. Like, if they do this, what are they ready to implement in terms of programs and in terms of policies to address those issues? Because let's be real, the population will grow, and then all of these factors will begin to arise. So they're certainly not dealing with maternal mortality. They're not dealing with children who remain in poverty and children who remain in the foster care system. They're already not dealing with this. So what are you going to do when, unfortunately, those things are not going to stop? It's just going to freeze. Exactly. So are you ready to tackle those issues the way that they should? You know, and then I also think it doesn't make sense to me, because then I'm like, you want to force a woman to go through this process of pregnancy with her body. Why do they make it so hard to adopt them? They make it so hard to adopt and so expensive for, you know, let's say a woman, okay, they overturn it. A woman has to go through with having the child. If she still doesn't feel ready to be a mom, she can give the baby up for adoption, and then a family who's ready to take that on can. But they almost make it impossible for people to adopt. So, you know, and then on top of the fact of just let a woman make the choice that's right for her. At the end of the day, you know, whether you agree with it or not, you had back in the day, you know, we already know the way they used to do abortions in the back alley. You know what I'm saying? You don't want now other issues to arise because maybe young girls are feeling trapped, like they don't. I mean, I don't know. It's a lot, but it's a lot. Like going back and forth with like just reading up on like why they're doing this and the fact that it can be reality. It just like all these things start to play a part, you know?
Yeah, most definitely. You hit on a lot of key points that I actually was thinking about too, just in terms of essentially the support that is given to the children once they're here. Like I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on when the baby is a fetus and when the mother is carrying when a person is carrying the child or the baby. But what happens when they're born? It's just they're either put into the system. They, like you said, the parents are forced in most cases in underprivileged or underpoverished neighborhoods. They're forced to be put on welfare, so they can't take care of their kids, you know, on their own. So there's a lot of implications involved. So it's like people, you know, I'll say this for myself. I'm 100% pro-choice. I think that the decision to either keep your child or abort your child should be solely on the person, on the woman. I think that it is just it's to me it's unfair, and it's just horrible to have a government or a system place that type of responsibility on themselves to say, no, this person can't keep their child because of X, Y, and Z. That's, to me, it's just outrageous. And I think that if there's a decision made at all, it should be on that person, on that person to say yes or no, regardless of any personal choices that they make to constantly do it over and over again. That's to me, that's a different topic, but I think that it should not necessarily at all. It should not be put on the state or on the Supreme Court to make those decisions. And I did want to mention too, before I go on, I saw, according to NPR, they were saying that if the Supreme Court does overturn the constitutional right to abortion, that the decision will be left up to the states to decide how they want to move forward with it. So it's like, for example, I think, for a state like New York City, right? There are people who can barely afford to live here as it is. So now you're going to put a regulation on women specifically to say, okay, you can afford to live here, but yet, God forbid, if you do, maybe, God forbid, get raped, or you have an unplanned pregnancy that you cannot, take care of, you can't take care of that child. Now you're going to have to bring a life into this world that you couldn't even really afford to take care of your own life while you're living here. So they're making it difficult to survive, and then yet they're putting these parameters in place where you can't have the choice to keep or to abort your baby. I just find it outrageous, in my opinion. The fact that states and legislators are making this decision over a woman's body is just outrageous to me. And when you think about it, it's like, coming from a situation, like you said, where Black women are 2 to 3 times higher, more likely to experience mortality, in maternal health than white women. It's like, but yet they're talking about having, promoting, women's health, but you telling someone that they have to get an abortion is not promoting women's health. You don't know how high risk that pregnancy could be for that woman. Whenever a woman goes on or a person, I shouldn't say woman, because people identify themselves as different genders. When a person goes on that table to give birth, it's a life or death situation, regardless. It could be for the person giving birth or for the baby. So it's like you're not necessarily promoting women's health, but you're putting restrictions on how they decide to do that, to give birth or not. So I don't think that they're thinking it through. And then I think just as with regards to the rape victims, I know you have mentioned that, and I thought about that as well. And I know the argument might be that, folks who get abortions aren't necessarily rape victims, so to speak. Like if the numbers aren't as high as people who just choose to get abortions, not necessarily because they were raped. But to me, when it comes to having abortions as an option for rape victims, it's kind of like for lack of a better word or term, it's kind of like an insurance policy for them. Like it's like you don't want to have to use it, but in the event that you need to use it, it's there. And in the event that a woman does not want to keep her baby because of this traumatic incident that happened in their lives, because they were raped, they have that opportunity to make that choice. But if it's taken away from them, they can't make it. Then, like you said, in terms of, having the support for children, also the support for postpartum mothers. A woman just the other day had thrown her baby off of a balcony. And you can't blame the mother. That's a natural thing that women experience in sometimes. It's where it's like they go through postpartum depression. They have to try to get back into the groove of things. So it's like, where's the support in that regard? Like where you're talking about having babies, but you guys aren't, like you said, providing programs for people, for children, and also for new parents to be able to acclimate themselves into parenthood, because it's not easy. Exactly. It's not. So it's like, it's a lot of, control, I think, that is being placed on people who are making decisions but do not have a clue as to what women have to experience, number one, or people have to experience. And then two, just specifically marginalized groups like yours and mine. Women of color, women who are in underprivileged, under-resourced areas who are living day to day. Okay, maybe they made a mistake, and they got pregnant, And, you know, not to say that their baby is a mistake, but the fact that this thing happened, at least if they don't feel that it's right for them to have a child right now, they should have the option to be able to have an abortion. That's just where I sit. And, you know, and then in terms of like working mothers, working women, the level of lack of maternity and paternity leave is, in the US specifically, is just downright disgraceful. Like, we're the only country that just limits the amount of maternity leave, paid maternity leave, that people can take when they have a baby, to be able to, and not only just people who give birth, but people who adopt babies or do whatever, just to be able to bond with their child. That lack of maternity and paternity leave is just outrageous. Like, you literally get maybe a month. That's not enough time. I just think that overall it should not be placed. The decision should not be placed in the hands of the state, of any kind of legislators, any kind of Supreme Court. It should not be put in that line. Just in terms of just it being a human right to make a choice about your body, it should not be placed in their hands. So that was a rant, but I'm off my soapbox now. But that's it.
Everything was valid. You made great points. You know, at the end of the day, and you know what I hope I conveyed earlier was that no matter what, even if you disagreed with it for whichever of those reasons, it's like the thought of, like you said, somebody else being in charge of what happens with your health is absurd. Yeah. You have a lot of these lawmakers who are making these decisions. First of all, a lot of them are men who will never ever know what it's like or ever experience what it is to be pregnant, what it is to be a mother. You know, that's the first thing. And then also you have a lot of people who still conceive even when they try to use the proper protection. Sure. You know, so it's not always a case of, oh, well, she should have used protection or he should have used protection. Sometimes that's not always the case. Women who get pregnant on birth control, condoms are not 100%. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So, and those are just extra things I'm throwing out there. But none of that matters at the end of the day. At the end of the day is you cannot, based on what your personal feelings, because what other reasons is this being fueled off of? Just their personal feelings, probably a lot having to do with what else? Religion? Because what else would make you think you can have control over what somebody else does with their body? Because let's be real, a lot of people who draw their reasoning from a religious standpoint, really, it's not really easy for them to see another person's perspective. Right. It's that or it's nothing. You know, right. So what can really drive, they say, you know, you can't combine church and state, but for me, I think it's really fueled by that. A lot of their personal choices, because there's nothing else. If you think in terms of like scientifically and logically and medically and those like reasonable and improving things, how could you think it's reasonable to feel like you can be in charge of someone's body when you don't know what they're going through? Their mental state, that plays a huge part.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of women who get pregnant who already deal with mental illness. You know, and you have young women. Then it's just like, and then when you think about rape and all those things, those are just added factors.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I just don't. I never understood it. I never understood why. Because listen, we're gonna be real. You got these people chanting outside Planned Parenthood, you know, downing these moms who go in and do whatever they feel like they need to do. Half of people who are existing mothers a lot of mothers aren't even good ones.
Exactly. Yeah.
You judge them for having the abortion, you judge them for being a terrible mom.
can't win.
Sometimes a woman is not even at fault, because if you listen, and any mom could attest to this, you have to be really mentally there and as mentally equipped as possible to be a mom.
Right.
It is very, very, very easy to get out of sorts. It is very easy to get in a position where you have to think quickly and be able to control your actions and your feelings and your emotions. So if you have someone who's a little more vulnerable in that way, this is why you have instances like the one you just mentioned, where people kill their children, where they abuse their children. So my thing is, all right, you wanna put it so and the thought, and then what comes after pregnancy is one thing, but like you said, many women who learn they're pregnant learn that if they have the child, they won't survive. Many women have stillbirths and have to go through pregnancy for the baby to be passed on at the time of birth. I literally have goosebumps. So awful. Because there's sometimes you learn early on in pregnancy that you will have a stillbirth. So it's like, I don't get it. That's just what it is.
I hear you. No, I hear you. It's you.
For the biggest fact that you said, which was simply somebody not having control over your body and the decisions you make when it comes to not only your physical health, but your emotional and mental health, because they'll all play a factor.
All play a factor.
But then that's basic human right.
Yes.
Your basic human right. And then you have all of these things, and then I know you're going to have a lot of women, let's just lay it out there, this is what it is. This is just my thought process. You're going to have a lot of women who have trouble conceiving via but still, it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of judgment being passed on to, oh, I don't agree with it. And why, how could you ever come to that decision? Or you should just keep your legs closed and all this kind of stuff. But half the women who have those opinions ain't even equipped to be a mom.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So
if you really want to get into it, you could get into it. At the end of the day, a woman knows what she can handle, what she can take on. Is it going to be detrimental to the baby's health? Is it going to be detrimental to the woman's health? Is the woman going to make it through pregnancy? Is this baby going to be born stillborn or be born with, illness that then the mother has to deal with a postpartum? Like what? You don't know. And there's a lot of those things you do learn early on.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot, girl. It's a lot.
But you raised a really great point that I didn't think about, but I do want to, make it known that I do understand and I respect women who are trying to conceive and that can't. And my stance isn't to try to, and I know you know this, but I'm just trying to make it known. I'm not trying to disregard their efforts to try to conceive. That's not what I'm trying to do. I wish every woman in this world, if that's your will, if that's what you want, if you want to conceive, if you want to have a baby of your own, I pray to God that you do. But that's not everyone's destiny. That's not everyone's will. That's not everyone's choice.
Right.
And I don't think that women who don't make that choice should be penalized or should be scrutinized for choosing to do something with their bodies that may not be, accepted by others. So I wanted to make it known to folks, like, I wasn't, that's not where I stood with it. But by the same token, it's like people should just have their own choice. Have their own choice. And then it's like, but did you hear about the baby formula shortage that's been going on?
Girl.
It's like, y'all want people to have babies, but y'all ain't even got the formula to feed them, and them formulas are expensive.
They don't even, are they? They not the formula. I did hear that, and I read today that they were treating babies because mothers were trying to make their own formula because they needed to feed their babies. Now, let's put it out there. Not every mother's able to breastfeed.
Thank you.
I did not lactate. I tried my very, very hardest to breastfeed, and it did not happen. I depended on formula to feed my baby, especially mine at that.
Yep.
Was allergic to whatever else was out there. So, you know, people want to say, oh, you know, they want to resort back to like, oh, well, we naturally do what we're naturally meant to do, what we're naturally capable of. A lot of that is not true. And you don't know until you're in that situation, you know? And then it's like being judgmental towards this woman for making the decision, no matter what reason it is. Then it's like, then people judge people, like for women who are having trouble conceiving. Sometimes somebody will say, well, have you thought about adoption? Right? And then there are some women who will be like, who straight up can't fathom the thought of adoption.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's women that are like, if it's not from me, I couldn't do it. So it's everybody has reasons of their, you know, of their like objective on motherhood and what that means. So come on, you can't be this way in this aspect to even grasp all the factors that go into parenting, you know, pregnancy, parenthood. It's you cannot even wrap your head around it. My daughter's about to be 7 and I'm still wrapping my head around it.
It's so complex.
It's so complex. So I get so angry. I do too. I'm just like,
it is crazy. And I'm gonna just split my last point, and I'm not gonna beat this horse dead. But where is the accountability for men who are impregnating these women? So are we not going to talk about the fact that it takes 2 to tango, and it's not just the woman who is involved in this? Because at the end of the day, if you want to get scientific, it's coming from the man. Like, so what are we putting in place here? Like, are we really going to only put the ownership on the woman and make her feel like I'm doing something wrong for making a choice for my body? Right. Or are we going to put some ownership on the man? I'm going to leave it at that. I don't say nothing else.
And you wanna break down this one that I'm about to do? What about the women and children who are raped, right? You want to take away their right to abortion, but you want to throw away their victimizer for 5 years?
5.
Think on that one. Let's sip our tea to that one. Pedophiles impregnating 11 and 12-year-old girls, and they don't even get life.
Exactly. They get to come out and do the same thing over. No, come on.
Make it make sense. That's all.
Make it make sense. Exactly. Because the system is rigged, if you ask me. Like, it's against all marginalized people who don't have a choice or don't have a voice. Right. And it's disgusting. Girl, I don't even know.
Listen, this topic is one that can be discussed multiple times. I feel like if there is anybody who is watching this who has like opposing views from us, similar views, you know, leave this discussion open. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it would be really interesting to hear from people who are totally against, totally pro-choice, and really see, you know, and if you have something to say where you feel like you can make somebody else understand something we're not touching on or that we don't see, let us know. And let's see this discussion open, because it's important and it's going to really change the world.
Wholeheartedly.
It really will change the world. You know, I mean, what is the world? It's made up of people, and it's made up of people who reproduce, and you know, that's how generations, you know, are continued to be made. And what will it actually mean? And this is just minor in terms of like everything that can really come from them overturning Roe versus Wade. So
yeah, most definitely.
I'll close my sentiments on that one.
Yes, girl. I think we covered all the bases, but like you said, like let's have an open discussion about it. But yeah, my opinion, just leave it up to the person. Like my body, my choice. Let me choose, and whatever happens from there happens. But it should not be from the decision or from the perspectives of lawmakers who, like you said, and I think you put it best, who don't have a clue, who are normally men making decisions for women. And that's it. But yes, girl.
Well, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and subscribe.
Bye, y'all.
It's official. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Ding. Sistas Bonafide.